Hello and welcome back to Zenin Fanfics. Today we're starting part 2 of an exciting new series. What if Deku had ability to develop new quirks? If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we are featuring is written by the Weird 10209 on Wattpad. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now, let's dive into the story. Izuku POV. The whole of 1A looked up to our champions and sweat dropped. Tokoyami stood third, Todoroki stood second, and finally Kaken stood muzzled and strapped down on first place. He was trying to break out and attack Todoroki, who was barely fazed by his face. Seriously, his face was so amazing it looked like he had a second quirk. Ida had to leave because something happened with his family. Uraraka and I were worried and hoped he would be okay. As midnight began to introduce the man that would award the winners, a shadow loomed over the stadium. The crowd began to cheer as All Might descended, saying something while Midnight was talking over him. He turned to her shaking and feeling hurt as no one got what he said. Kaken still struggling to break free. All Might awarded Tokoyami. He was advised to not always rely on your quirk. Exactly, I'm going to drag him with me to training. I was grinning. Sorry Tokoyami, but I know you need the extra hell. Then All Might awarded Todoroki. He asked about what had happened. Todoroki simply said that he didn't know what he was fighting for anymore. And finally Kaken. All Might thought it might have been a bit too harsh. I wish I could have put one on him back in middle school. He took off his mask and we all witnessed Kaken's face grew into an even bigger scowl that I didn't know was humanly possible. Scratch that, no one in this society is a normal human. Katsuki Bakugu quirk. Explosion. He sweats something similar to nitroglycerin and creates explosions when ignited in his palms. Quirk. Super Scowl is probably a quirk because his eyes grow and sharpen more till there's no pupils and his brows are furrowed all the way to his nose. He looked like the literal demon. Now to never let Kaken get my notebook. If he does get it, I won't be able to save it. Kaken didn't want the medal. But it's All Might we're talking about. Instead of putting it around his neck like he was supposed to, he just made do having him bite into it. I was pretty sure everyone else were reminded by a very, very, very beyond angry hedgehog. At the end of the day we were debriefed by Dad. He told us that the pros will be placing in requests to have us intern. I was worried about our classmate that was absent. I didn't know what had happened until I was watching the news with Dad. Our jaws had dropped and we stared in disbelief. Pro hero Ingenium was injured by the vigilante/villain who went by the title Hero Killer, Stain. It was a weekend and we decided to go visit them. The Ida family. Present Mike was there. He looked glum. Even Midnight. They were all friends back in UA and still remained as so. Ida Tensei had gained enough strength to get through the day, but now with his inability to walk he had to retire early. We left the 4 friends to chat with each other. I went to look for Ida. Ida had changed somehow. During the visit he was distant. I asked how he was going. I'm fine Aizawa. He tried to reassure me. That smile he plastered on his face was something I recognized too well. It was the smile I plastered on my face when growing up. No one else saw through it except Dad. I dropped my nice guy act. Nobody. POV. Izuku placed his hands in his pockets and looked up to the taller boy. Ida was slightly reminded by their teacher. Drop the smile. You're not fooling me, Izuku said to him with a hint of anger. Ida was slightly taken aback with this sudden change in mood. Though he shouldn't be because he had grown used to it. The way Izuku also dressed gave of quite a menacing look. Just like Aizawa, he didn't have much bright clothes. Baggy jeans and black shirt with a dark unzipped hoodie. The bags under his eyes making him seem more threatening. You're planning something and I know it. I can't stop you, but I hope I can change your mind. Just talk to me. We're your friends. Me, Uraraka, and even Shinso. We can help you, Izuku pleaded. Ida turned his back on him and assured him he would ask when he needed to talk to someone. Izuku didn't buy it but let him be for now. Izuku knew he should have pushed more, but he knew doing so would only push him away. When the next day came, Aizawa told Izuku to keep an eye on Ida. Nobody. POV. Even though Aizawa told Izuku to watch Ida, the two currently had no motivation to get out of bed. Mike, who stayed over in the guest room, was waiting for when the two would get up. He waited and waited and waited and waited. He gave up. There was no way to wake up these two. First he went into Izuku's room. Izuku woke up first, then all of them, but went back to sleep after getting ready. Hisashi sighed and threw the boy over his shoulder. The boy was in his red paint-stained sleeping bag. Izuku didn't seem to be bothered. Hisashi carried him out, opened the passenger door and threw him in. Cocoon 100%. Now that he thought about, the kid must have been up trying to come up with a hero name. Now to go get the other caterpillar. Hisashi could have just screamed at them, but when they are in Cocoon 100% mode, then there's no way to get them out. Aizawa was heavier than his son. Mike had to drag him out. Threw him in the front passenger seat. And then get in the driver's seat. The things I do for you guys, he huffed as he started the car. The whole of Class 1A sat and waited for their teacher to arrive. They knew if he were to arrive, then Izuku too. They waited and waited. Some of them began to worry. Hey, what happened to Aizawa and Aizawa? Surprisingly, it was Todoroki who asked, "Dude, use some honorific?" Kaminari replied, "The BSers are probably sleeping their asses off somewhere." Bakugo commented, "Then let's have a bet." Kaminari added, "I say they got kidnapped." Kaminari said, "They got sick," said Karishma. "They're bailing," said Siro. "They're just sleeping there but of in their demon cocoons." Bakugo ended it. The door slid open and what they thought to be their teacher and classmate was actually their English teacher and two body bags. The class stared with blank stares. "Sensei," Ojiro said, raising his hand. "Are those who we think it is?" he asked. "Thank you, Ojiro." The whole class thought. "Thank for asking what we dreaded to ask." 100% cocoon mode, Mike huffed. "Welp, I did my part." "You kids try to wake them up now," Mike said, leaving the class to head to his. The class dreaded what would come. They all had horrible memories from waking up the Aizawas. The locker incident. That was something many of them didn't want to repeat. To their relief, Izuku began to stir awake and morph into the appealing butterfly. "Guess we're at school," he said, sounding annoyed. He took out his phone. Did something with it and then sat on the floor. Meow. Meow. Came from his phone. The zipper of the yellow sleeping bag became undone. Just a quarterly. A hand reached out looking for the source of the sound. When the hand got close to the phone, Izuku moved it further away and increased the volume. The zipper was now halfway open. The whole hand now reaching out to look for the source. Izuku moved further away. Until finally the black butterfly birthed. Aizawa took Izuku's phone and went and stood in front of his class. All attention on the phone as Izuku made his way to his seat. The whole class. All of them stared, jaw dropped. They were waiting for someone to say something. "What?" Father and son asked. All Class 1A dropped. Legs up. Bakugo jumped onto his desk. "Are you kidding me? It was that easy to wake you BSs up? This SHT. Dip SHT pay up?" Bakugo shouted. Karishma, Kaminari and Siro played their bet. Tears rolling down their cheeks as they said goodbye to their lunch. "I don't know how I got here, but today we are going to do something important. It may have an effect on you as a hero." The class dreaded what would be said. Izuku was going back to sleep. "You're going to choose hero names." The class cheered with joy. Finally something fun and cool, they thought. "However, I won't be the one who will be judging the names because of certain reasons." "Why is that?" Suchan asked. "To not repeat history, of course," said Midnight Cat, walking into the classroom with her ridiculous skin-tight outfit. "Repeat history?" Uraraka asked, looking at the R18 hero. "Yes, dear," Midnight replied, whipping her hand in Izuku's direction. A small white board flew to him and hit the bullseye on his forehead. With a skull-hitting crack, the green-black-green-haired teen fell back and landed with a thud, completely out cold. "Deku." Uraraka called out in worry. "UA second year for Aizawa and Yamada." "What's the point of a name?" said Aizawa, looking done with life. "So that people will know who you are," said Yamada enthusiastically. "But I'm not gonna be popular or anything and I don't like the press. So what's the point of a name?" "Well, why don't you call yourself Erasure Head?" "Then I'll go with that." Ever since that day, whenever someone asked for an eraser, stationary tool, Aizawa thought they were calling him. Everything began. First up was Aoyama with "I Can't Stop Twinkling." Midnight changed the name "Can't Stop Twinkling" and accepted the name. Next was Ashido with "Alien Queen." Completely rejected. Everyone began to panic. And then Tsuchan went up, rainy season hero. Froppy, it was cute, it was her, it was a breath of fresh air for the class. As everyone began to gain more confidence to say their hero names, Izuku while rubbing the bump on his head looked for his name. Ida then went up. Izuku could see that he was trying to write ingenium, but he just wrote his first name. Midnight looked worried. Aizawa opened an eye. Izuku knew something was going on with him. Todoroki too wrote his first name. Izuku could see because the guy wasn't really sure either. Well, more like he couldn't find a name. Then Bakugo with wait for it king explosion murder Izuku face palmed. No, go back and change it, said Midnight. Uraraka then went up and presented her name. Uravity. It was cute, it did her perfectly. Thinking about her made him think about how she changed the meaning of his name. All Might did tell him it doesn't matter what his name would be. He may be the symbol of peace in the near future, but he doesn't have to be known. He decided on his name, Underground Hero, Deku. Hey man, are you serious? Kaminari asked, sounding worried. And Underground? Ashido asked. Yes, I'm sure about the name. It may have been an insult before, but thanks to someone who changed the meaning of it, I liked it. I really do. And Underground because I don't like the attention, remember, Izuku said with a smile. But dude, I thought you were one of the guys going for number 1? I am. But it doesn't matter really. 0 or 1 is just a number. All I want to be is a hero. Everyone melted from the sunshine smile. Happy and content. With a new view. They were going to be heroes. They won't mind what number they will be. They just want to be heroes. Many of the class cheered for Izuku, and now Izuku has to save his friends, the ones that weren't sure of what their name would be. Bonus payback. Izuku was so happy to have a great aunt like Midnight. So happy. And so grateful. She had invited her over to their place where his father was forced to do her hair. Midnight was loving it. Izuku didn't want much from his dad or cousin. Just the most delicious katsudon for dinner where ingredients caused a lot and for their house to be cleaned from top to bottom. Shinso Hitoshi had a bandana holding back his spiky hair, another covering his nose as he was scrubbing the kitchen wall. His quirk was taken away. Aizawa was doing midnights. He was to cook katsudon after. Izuku was lying on the sofa, a video game in hand as he played. How he got his cousin and father in this situation? Well, some years ago when he got his quirk, his lovely aunt took a video of his father's reaction. It was priceless. He threatened the man that he would show it to the whole staff of UA. As for his cousin, it was a pure slide of luck. He went over to the Shinso residence to pick up some things from his biological aunt for his dad when he came across his cousin in a purple cat suit. He had a tail and everything. Izuku took pictures and a video. The moment he saw Izuku he froze and turned white. He tried to brainwash him, but Izuku erased his quirk and ran like his life depended on it. And that is how we are here. Izuku blackmailing his father and cousin. Oh, the blissful moment he was having was something so good he had to savor it. Payback was a big but was so sweet. Izuku POV. After picking our names, me and Uraraka approached Ida. I let Uraraka do the talking. Right now I could read his whole expression and I knew I wouldn't be able to control what I would say. We sat and were about to eat lunch when Uraraka began. Ida, you can talk to us if something is bothering you, she said, trying to get him to open up. I'm okay really, he tried to reassure her. Ida will talk to us when he's ready, I told Uraraka. And got up. She looked at me surprised. I knew she was thinking I would push harder. From experience I knew if you push harder you're only pushing away more. One must learn how to look for help. Those were Dad's words. And that's what Dad did. I left the two to themselves. I later saw Uraraka with the other girls. I couldn't tell her about what I knew Ida was thinking. The look in his eyes, he was looking for revenge. I kept an eye on Ida that day. When the next class came, Dad showed us results of these who had gotten requests for internships. Surprisingly, I got more than I thought I would. I mean, after the fiasco with Todoroki, I thought no one would want me. We had to decide which agency we had to go to. I couldn't choose which one. As the day went by, I offered to walk Uraraka home. I had to explain my behavior after all. Thankfully she said it was okay. Ida had left without us. I sighed in annoyance. Uraraka POV. Deku sighed, looking annoyed. I noticed that he had been lurking around in the shadows lately. He always does that though. Usually to hide from Midnight or Present Mike. Or Bakugo, who was always looking for a fight with him. Aizawa-sensei did the same. What I had meant was he was lurking in shadows around Ida. He was worried as well. I was taken a bit aback at how he was acting, but then I remembered his story. He knew what Ida was going through. But Ida was lucky. His brother was alive. Izuku's mom died. His mom and nice stepdad. I couldn't even imagine seeing anyone I look up get hurt so badly, let alone my parents. I knew Deku will save him. Deku will save everyone because that's who he is. We were about to go out when suddenly All Might appears in a weird position and steals Deku away from me. I pouted and waited for him. Just cause his All Might doesn't mean he still my Deku away from me. What? I scream. People turn to me. My Deku. What am I thinking? Nobody. POV. All Might was proud that his successor got a lot of requests. He was surprised that he had gotten more than he had expected. He went to Aizawa to brag about how a fine successor he was. He had found the man. Scrolling through his son's request and found something. I'm deciding where my kid is going, says Aizawa. All Might was just about jump him. He slumped and took a seat across the man clad in black. Shouldn't you let him make that choice? All Might asked him. You know what these pros will do, they will treat like guests. I'm choosing cause Izuku needs training. Aizawa plainly replies. I see. Then who would you chose? All Might asked, taking a sip of his coffee that he had gotten earlier. There's only one choice. You won't like it, and neither won't he. Aizawa said, turning the computer around for him to see. All Might sees the name, spits out coffee, coughs out BLD. Are you serious, Aizawa? All Might says, turning buff and shaking. Man, here's the reason why you're like this, so why not? And do you even know me? I'm always serious. You don't have to say it. I feel your student's pain. All Might says, looking for comfort in a gloomy corner. Time skip brought to you by a pouting Uraraka. All Might appears before Izuku and steals him away from a now pouting Ochiko. In an empty hallway the two speak. I'm proud of you, my boy, for gaining many requests, says All Might proudly. Yeah, but I can't choose. They are just going to treat me like some guest, says Izuku with a sigh. So you knew, All Might says. He was expecting this. Of course I knew. I'm the son of Eraser Head after all, he said with a grin. Being an underground hero doesn't garner you any fame, but there's sure as hell a lot of information about all sorts of things involved. Underground heroes were best at collecting information. Many were thinkers, not brawlers, but Izuku was both. So I'm just waiting for Dad to pick one out for me. You knew your father would choose one for you. All Might asks, now sounding surprised. Why are you surprised at this? I am his son. Of course I know my dad, Izuku replies with an unimpressed look. Well, I am here to give you an intro on who he chose, said All Might. He began to shake. Izuku began to get worried. You see, my boy, he's a pro that I thought had retired a long time ago. All Might began to shake even more and he began to stutter, pulled out a slip of paper and handed it out to Izuku, who was just about shake from the way his mentor was acting. Your words are true, my boy. Underground heroes do know how dig up information. Your father found this man in the list of the many requests that you have gotten, and placed him as your only choice. Did I not tell you that Aizawa found out about One for All on his own? Anyway, the man he recommended for you was once a teacher at you, though only for 1 year. He was my homeroom teacher. All Might was no shaking violently. Move legs, move, he shouted at himself. Izuku had begun to fear for the worse as All Might began to mumble about him probably being a not good enough teacher, and that's why he wants to train the boy. Hey, calm down, All Might. He can't be worse than Dad, Izuku says, trying to cheer him up. Oh, his worse, Aizawa says from behind Izuku. Izuku screams, jumping onto All Might, who was also shocked to find the man there, who was scared shitless at the same time. Dad, please stop jumping out from nowhere, says the brat that sent Mike to the hospital. He retorts, oh, you were involved too? Izuku retorts, we're eating out today, he says, and leads the way out. Izuku waves All Might goodbye and follows. All Might is left wondering about what happened to Yamada Hisashi. Bonus, what are the Aizawas afraid of? The Aizawas were hard to scare. Present Mike didn't want to admit defeat to Midnight, who said they were fearless. He tried everything. Bugs fail, Midnight herself fail, all sorts of scary looking animals fail, truly horrid horror flicks fail. How are you guys not afraid of this? He screams at them. There was a bunch of gore in there, he complains. I've seen a whole lot of it in my line of work. Aizawa bluntly replies, I saw my parents die and had that repeat in my head for years. Izuku bluntly replies. Mike gives up and admits defeat and decides to walk home. He immediately regrets everything. The movie was playing over and over in his head. He keeps on imaging something coming out from an alley and wrapping around him, strangling him to death, slowly cutting through his flesh until he was nothing but sushi as a black faceless figure looms over him, watching him die. His nightmares granted something wraps around him tightly, almost too tightly, or that's what he thinks, and a dark figure appears before him in the darkness, looming over. Yamada has stopped working. He has gone into shock as foam begins to form in his mouth. May he rest in peace. Izuku panics and calls an ambulance. Aizawa is slapping the unconscious man, trying to wake him up. They were just trying to get him to go back home. The idiot left his own house saying he was going home. He was at home. Yamada was banned from watching any horror movies and didn't know he had found the Aizawa's fear. Their greatest fear is losing someone they cared about. Nobody POV. As the day for the internships came, everyone was excited. Granted, for some people, Izuku thought he couldn't be any luckier that day. He got new binding gear. And also he got back his guns. Of course he got customized bullets. Tranquilizers. Instant ones. Izuku was amazed by how well they were made. If Aizawa hadn't explained it to him, he would have thought they were actual bullets. Because one of the guns was white and this greatly clashed with the color of his costume. Izuku decided to change both colors of his guns. It was black but had green highlights when light shone on it. His knives, oh how he had missed his blades. Izuku wasn't just a hero fanatic but also one for combat knives and guns. He had scared the SHT out of his classmates when they brought up a topic on guns when they were talking about snipe. He rambled with a crazed glint. That crazed glint was just his fanboy nature and sleep deprivation. That was one reason for why he was lucky. Next was he was going to train under his mentor's teacher that his father had handpicked himself and that he was just one town over from Ida. He secretly asked Yaoyorozu to make a tracker. Barely noticeable. He placed it in his costume. As they were getting ready to leave, Aizawa briefing them, they were finally ready to go. Ida went on his own to Hosu. He and Uraraka tried one last time to reach out to him. But to no avail. He was the last to leave, and before he went his dad called out to him. Aizawa POV. Yep. I couldn't help it. Ida was far more stubborn than I thought. Also I had a feeling something would go wrong. I decided to take action before the storm arrived. Problem child. Izuku turned abruptly. Dad. Izuku said, looking confused, by the power of a pro I grant you permission to use your quirks when needed. I told him loud enough for some others to hear. It's okay to use your quirks when a pro grants you permission. Whatever punishments he will gain will fall to me. Izuku looked at Aizawa with wide eyes. Ida went to Hosu for only one reason, and we both know why. Plus I know you placed a tracker on him. Izuku flinched. Plus if there's anyone that could bring down the hero killer, I'm pretty sure it would be you. What makes you say that? Izuku asks, sounding confused. For one, your analyzing skills works faster than anyone I know. 2. You're just as skilled with your knives. And 3. Whose kid do you think you are? I'd love to see the face of the BSD when he realizes he won't be able to use his quirk when you're through with him. I replied with my grin. Nobody POV. With the permission granted, Izuku made his way to where he would be interning. He braved himself for the new hell. Izuku found the place. It was quite a run-down place. When he knocked, no one answered. And so when he opened the door, he saw horror. Good food wasted. Gran Torino. Izuku questioned. Come on, that was my best joke. The short old man in the yellow costume said, getting up from his position. Who are you? He questioned. Aizawa Izuku. Izuku introduced with a bow. Shoyuda. Says Gran Torino. No. Aizawa Izuku. Izuku repeats. Tashinori. Says Gran Torino. No. Izuku says with a sigh. He knows this old man is joking around. But it would be nice if he could hurry up with his jokes. Without knowing, the little old man had already taken away suitcases that held his guns and knives and costume. Good heavens, what are they giving kids these days? He say, opening the case with the knives and guns. Izuku turns around immediately and rushes over. He felt as though someone just found his secret stash of manga. Put on your costume and try to throw all your quirks at me, says Gran Torino, now finally serious. Izuku smiles and with a hia. He starts changing after he was done. Gran Torino nods at his appearance. Already looking like a underground hero. No, to see if you can handle it. Gran Torino begins. Izuku was too slow at activating erasure. He activates it completely. Izuku gets hits on the back and stumbled forward. Izuku though he was ensured victory but no. Gran Torino was still moving around too fast for him to catch. I took measures against your quirks. Shoyuta sent me the details on your quirk. Did you really think that we would make this easy, says Gran Torino quirk suppressors. Izuku cursed himself. Reason, because he was the reason why they existed when word got out about a boy that could suppress quirks by touch, support companies and scientists flocked him. With his quirk they made the quirk suppressing tools. Usually they would use drags to suppress quirks. But thanks to him those drags turned into simple tools such as cuffs and collars. Aizawa made sure that no one knew he was the reason for the existence of the tools. Gran Torino must have had those things in the soles of his shoe. Izuku hardens up. Gran Torino notices and lands in his microwave and adds more power. He hit in the back, the side and the stomach. The boy was moving much and felt like a boulder. He picked out his flaws. He thinks too much. Izuku's eyes were quickly moving around trying to determine his position. Izuku powers up with one for all full cowling. But even though he can move a bit faster, he still can't get the Pro 2. His focusing too much on his defense quirk Izuku was using 50% of Razor Extend. He needs to concentrate to use this much. Izuku reaches for Gran Torino only to have the man dodge like Bakugu. He tries using his gear but captures nothing. 3. Izuku lacks mobility in close places. Izuku was used to alleyways and open spaces, with nothing to block his way and places to jump. 4. He can't fully utilize all his abilities at the same time because he was focusing too much on the ones he's most used to and hand-to-hand combat. Izuku grew up with a quirk that didn't have much features but erasing quirks. He was practically quirkless when people found his weakness. And finally 5. He didn't think ahead. As a hero one must always be prepared for anything. Gran Torino kept on with his onslaught until finally Izuku could no longer stand the gut, back and face attacks. We got a lot of work to do, says Gran Torino with a smirk. Izuku lied in a corner in his sleeping bag. He was tired from yesterday's training. He felt at peace like he was sleeping in a soft cloud in the middle of night. Then Gran Torino thought it would be a fun way to wake up the kid by landing on his gut. Izuku shot up fully awake and activated suppress and chased after the short old man who dodged effortlessly. After the morning chase, Izuku laid sprawled on the floor. Why is it so hard to catch you? He asked as he pried himself of the floor. Why are you finding it so hard to use your quirks? The man retorted. As Izuku getting their breakfast ready, he tried to think of a way to get Gran Torino. Once the taiyaki was done he served it and the man dug into his breakfast happily. The old man hummed happily at how sweet his breakfast was. Sometimes you just need 2 things to make it the best, he says. Izuku looks up in surprise. That's it? He exclaimed. He picks up a taiyaki and then says, this taiyaki is me. He says, are you okay boy? Gran Torino asks confused, no, I mean, Izuku powers up and then activated in Adminate hands and legs. They were shiny black. He also activates one for all full cowl. I've been trying use all my quirks at once. I could have just only used from the start. I'm an idiot for not thinking that sooner. Food now, why don't we try it out? Gran Torino says as starts bouncing around. There was no point in trying to erase his quirk since he was too fast to see. And so Izuku just went with Adminate limbs and one for all. Izuku concentrated on trying to pinpoint the pro. You know what he thinks? To hell with this SHT. He has seen Gran Torino jumping around the place. He decided to imitate. Gran Torino launched at him. Izuku backflipped onto the ceiling. The old pro looked up to see the boy smiling. Izuku launched himself at the man only to have him dodge. The two went at it without realizing they had scattered their breakfast all over the floor. Let's stop here, said the old pro as he took a look at his stopwatch. He wiped a scratch made by the boy with a smile. Yes sir, by the way, did we finish breakfast? He asked and turned to see the food on the floor and the table upside down, the taiyaki. I'll go buy some more. In another part of the city, Stain looked over searching for his new prey, only to find a warp gate opening up to him. Kurojari brought the man back to the hideout where they had a little chat. As all went not completely well, someone in another part of town walked with their superior. Ida paid no heed to the Aizawa's warnings. The boy, stubborn as a bull, was hell-bent on avenging his brother. And for another part of town, a dual-colored hair boy walked with the pro hero that was his father, still slightly hating the man. Back to where our protagonist is. Izuku got kicked to the wall and is now currently looking at his MSTR upside down. Gran Torino clicked a timer on his stopwatch looking at the boy's time. "Let's stop here before you develop some weird habits," the man said. "Weird habits?" Izuku questioned. "Put on your costume, we going to go have a trip." Izuku did as his grandmaster told. He didn't question it until they were in a train heading to the shady parts of town. "Where exactly are we going?" he asked, looking confused. "We are going on patrol in Hosu. Ever since Ingenium got injured, the bloody crime rate rose in the area." "I see, but why are we going at night?" "Isn't it obvious? Our whole lot of petty crime and other stuff happen in the dark." Izuku shivered at the smile the old man was giving. But it did make sense to him. As an underground hero, he'd probably most likely be working at night like his father. He was already used to this anyway. Attacking people in the dark. Only his father knows about this. He has a vigilante record. That was also the reason why his father gave him permission to use his quirks. So that nobody catches on to the fact he used to be a vigilante. First time his father caught was not pretty. He was hung upside down and scolded and then given mighty hill training and had all luxury taken away. That being his sleeping bags, his bed, notebooks, phone, computer, internet, you're free to name it. He put his phone, ignoring Gran Torino's on youngsters these days knowing nothing but looking at their smartphones and such. Well, thank you. Now even the characters in our favorite anime are complaining about us holding onto our phones to see if Ida replies to his messages. He grew annoyed when he saw that they were all read but not replied. An irk mark appeared on his head. It was a normal ride. Izuku decided to check the tracking device he put on Ida. The boy was moving fast and was on Joe's own nearing an alley. Izuku's eyes grew wide and just then something crashed into the train. All began to panic as a Nomu poked his head through. A leg on a hero that was now unconscious. "Stay put, boy!" The old pro shout and launched at the Nomu, sending himself and the villain out. Izuku obviously didn't listen. His friend was in danger. He looked at his phone once more. Ida had stopped moving. Izuku powered up and took off. Ida couldn't move. He was paralyzed. Stunned, he didn't know. Seeing the man that did his brother in made his insides boil. His heart shouted for vengeance, but he couldn't do anything. "Your eyes," Stain spoke to the boy. "Revenge is what you seek, isn't it?" he says, venom dropping of every word. "And you call yourself our hero? Shut your mouth, villain. I'll kill you if it's the last thing I'll do." Ida shouted in rage. Stain stepped hard onto the boy's back. "Shouldn't you be worrying about the hero over there?" asked Stain, pointing towards the pro that was also immobilized on the ground. Ida gritted his teeth. He knew in his heart that he wasn't acting like a hero, but he just wanted to avenge his brother. Izuku ran through the streets of the Hosu. With every corner he turned there was at least one or two Nomus. The League has struck once more, unleashing terror in the night. Pros tried to subdue the creatures, but it was no use with their skills. A Nomu launched at a heroine. With all the training he did added with his natural instincts, the boy leaped in front of her, turning his hand into a blade and then activating collapse. An easy takedown by him. The female hero was shocked. She knew the kid was from UA and she was left in shock since the boy just single-handedly take down the monster she and her entire team was trying to take down for the past few minutes, but he was still a kid. She saw him pull out his phone, saw his grow wide in horror and watched him use his gear to swing himself up into the building and away. She noted to head in the direction the boy went to see what happened, after taking care of the mess before her. Todoroki had just sent his location to everyone. And not only that, but it was exactly where Ito was. Izuku wasted no time. He ran to where the two were at the mercy of the hero killer. Izuku turned the corner and his widened in fear and shock. Ida was down on his stomach, as was Todoroki. Stain above Ida holding his sword, seconds away from sending the boy to the afterlife. Izuku pulled out his guns and fired multiple times. All aimed for Stain. The villain reacted quickly, jumping and holding onto a fire escape. Deku powered and charged. Stain knew about the boy from Shigaraki. He avoided all contact. He managed to nick him and devoured his BLD. Nothing happened. This was going to be a challenge and he knew it. "Todoroki, how the hell did you get here?" Deku shouted. Todoroki, Ida, and the pro that was with them were shocked about the boy's sudden appearance. I saw Ida run this place and followed. Ida, you're lucky Todoroki was around. Deku scolded. Deku was fully equipped. Mask on, guns in hand. He almost looked like a Black Ops solider. Another kid tonight, Stain snarled. No matter, I'll kill you all. Stain launched, but Deku fired once more with his guns, keeping him back. Stain threw his blades and knocked the guns out his hand. He launched once more, but the clang blades came. Deku pulled out his knives. The two jumped back. The three injured were behind him. Deku activated Erase and looked at Stain. The others began to move. Deku tried to capture Stain with his gear, but the man dodged. The three were now standing. Deku deactivated his quirk and the three instantly dropped once more, paralyzed. It looks like you guys have to sit this out. Ida began. Deku told him, I'm going to be an underground hero. I don't want anybody to know my real name. The public will slowly forget me from the sports festival, so as I am now, I'm Deku, he told them, but you can't take this guy down on your own. The pro-hero native told him, why don't you just grab your friends and get out of here? A hero doesn't leave anyone behind. The boy clad in black shouted as he charged after the villain, a hero will jump headfirst into a burning building to save those still alive. Ida watched his friend battle against the villain. Blades clashing and sparks igniting. Guilt began to weigh down on him. All he had been doing was pushing his friends away. A hero smiles so that he can show that there is nothing worry about. That's the type of hero I'm going to be and am. Todoroki felt he could move. He thought he was imagining things. He went down long after the pro and Ida. But he moved. Deku got kicked in the gut and sent back. Quirk suppressor were in the man's boots like Gran Torino. The blade came down on Deku. Deku shifted his hand into blades. It's true, the man said as he backed up, you have more than one quirk. The two circled each other. So this is the reason your grandfather wants you. The man said. Izuku was taken aback. What was he talking about, he wondered. Even Todoroki and Ida were taken aback by the words, being able to develop new quirks. Hope your mind is strong enough. Power corrupts, you know. Just like how the pros are corrupted. The power they have, all of it makes them fakes. Only All Might. Only he has the right to be called a true hero. I don't know what your deal is, or whose grandfather you're talking about. Power, you say? Well, I was quite happy with the one I inherited from my father. The man chuckled at the boy playing hero. Do you even know of your lineage? You boy hold more power than you think. Stain threw a blade. It made its home in Deku's shoulder. The man took his chance and launched. A barrage of ice came at him. The man jumped back and turned to see Todoroki standing. Izuku noticed the dual boy was losing BLD. A lot of it. Ida felt he could move. He had been down for so long he felt stiff. Stain launched at the defenseless Todoroki. He looked like he was about to pass out. Deku pulled out the blade and launched his gear, but he couldn't stop the blade. The blade was mere centimeters away from the dual-haired boy. Ida jumped in the last second and flipped, breaking the sword and saving the boy's life. Deku's gear caught Stain and wrapped him up. Izuku pulled him and gave a blow to the gut. Brute strength +1 for all made the man spit out BLD. Deku held him down and took away his quirk. Stain was still conscious. Deku tied him up with the scarf and left like that. The man was slowly drifting into unconsciousness. Deku had broken a couple of ribs with that single punch. Any movement and the chances of having his broken rib bones piercing his lung were high. He's going to escape if you leave him like that, Native said in surprise. No blade can cut that thing, Deku said as he began working. From his utility belt he pulled out bandages and more. Todoroki fought hard and lost a lot of BLD. Didn't look to be in any better shape. This is all my fault, the boy said, looking down. Todoroki was already out. Deku looked up to Ida and pulled down his mask. Izuku, even though injured, was able to throw Todoroki over other shoulder. You can say that, the boy began. Native was taken aback. He wanted to respond, but Ida, who he was helping to stand, shook his head. Izuku was both carrying Todoroki and pulling Stain. He sighed and looked back up to him. Take this as a lesson. As a hero there will always be casualties. One must learn that he can't save everyone but must always try. I was like you, know, probably still am, but I'm not letting that cloud my judgment. Not anymore. Not after you. Spoken like a true hero, Stain snickered. Native glared at the man. Ida looked down. Izuku just sighed. Next thing he knows he's getting a boot to the face. "Don't you know what you have done, boy?" Gran Torino shouted. "Don't worry, I knew this was going to happen, so I got permission from Dad. Your father is a pro." Native asked as he and Ida gave a confused look. "Underground," was all Izuku said to the man. Stain narrowed his eyes at the boy. He snickered once more. Having the BLD of a hero run through as well as that of a villain. He wondered how shocked he would be. "How did you know?" Ida asked. "I already said I was like you," Izuku pointed out. Once more pros began to show up. The heroine that he saved as well. She must have brought them here. Izuku did run in a panic in front of her. "Shuto." Endeavor's voice came. "What happened?" He shouted in anger. Izuku had to look twice to see it. He thought he was imagining things. The number 2 pro was worried. Not for his tool but for his son. There was genuine worry in the man's eyes. He almost jaw-dropped. He gave the man his son, and the hulking man held his boy like he was the most precious thing in the world. There was a sudden screech. In the blink of an eye, a Nomu came flying. The beats picked up the boy before anybody could react. Everyone couldn't do anything. Not even Izuku. Izuku had suddenly lost control of his quirk, and Stain got his back. Now the man was going to run. Izuku cursed himself for what was happening. Just then he felt he was falling. He felt being grabbed and pulled out. Formed the Nomus grasp, and the sound of blade meeting flesh came. Only All Might and this boy have the right to be called heroes. This world is filled with nothing but fakes. I will wipe this world clean of these fakes. I will dip my hands in BLD to clean these world of you fakes. Only All Might, only him and this boy. Only they are allowed to end me. Everyone stood frozen in fear. Todoroki, who had woken at the moment Izuku was taken, wished he didn't. That night, in that moment, Stain did not devour any BLD but the Nomus. But all stood paralyzed. Unable to move. In the distance, Shigaraki Tamura scratched his neck in annoyance. He wondered why his MSTR still wanted the boy. After all that, Izuku told the pros and officers at the scene that he had gotten permission from the pro hero Eraser Head. But also tried Cove for Todoroki and Ida, but Gran Torino saw through and said that they had no permission. They waited for the decision that was going to be made. The news about the capture of Stain was still yet to be released. It was decided that Izuku would take the credit even though he said he didn't want it. They found a roundabout and said that an underground hero student responsible for the fall of Stain. No other information than that was published. Now he was with his friend waiting for what kind of punishment would be handed to them. "You don't have to go through with," Ida said to the 2 boys. Izuku was dressed in civilian clothes. Black jeans. His red sneakers. A dark green hoodie and a baseball cap. He was just hanging around the hospital with the 2 because Gran Torino had to do some paperwork and he had nothing to do. He was bouncing a ball of the walls. "Yeah, Aizawa, you had permission, you don't have to do this. Will both of you just shut up? I want to do this, so let me be." The boy sighed. He looked at the 2. Ida had his hands wrapped up and both had 4 drops connected to them. "Sorry for not being there sooner," he apologized. "Thanks for being there," Todoroki told him. "It was all my fault," Ida said once more. Just then the door opened and then the head of police in Hosu walked in. And began talking. The man with the dog head explained their situation. Ida and Todoroki looked down. Todoroki somewhat mad because the man was saying that helping his friend without permission to use his quirk was a crime. During the whole time, Izuku sat relaxed, already knowing what was going to be said. "And that's why, the public won't know," the man said. "What?" Todoroki was taken aback. "Since your friend over there had permission, only his actions would be recorded. As for the 2 of you, as far as I know, the both of you didn't take part in anything. Of course your friend didn't want anything to do with the incident, so this was the result." The man dropped a newspaper, saying an underground hero took down Stain and was left to be picked up by the police. "Forgive me for the outburst, but next plead with the good news first." Todoroki apologized. Izuku only laughed and Ida gave a relieved smile. Everything went back to normal after. Not much happened after. Uraraka called in to see what happened and why did Todoroki send his location to everyone on his contact list. That being Izuku, Uraraka, his father and sister, and also Momo. The guy didn't have much contacts. Uraraka and Izuku had exchanged numbers after everything at the sports festival. Izuku told her everything was okay and that there was nothing worry about. After that, Izuku thought about what Stain had said. He said he had a grandfather. From what he knew, his grandfather was a sleepy old grump. The original Aizawa. He knew that he wasn't the one the man was talking about. He meant the grandfather from his mother's side. Izuku decided to do some investigation into who he was, and to discover his lineage he continued his training with Gran Torino until his final day. The old man was slightly sad to see the boy go. He had grown on him. He was just like his father and also his MSTR in his some ways. As Izuku said his thanks and goodbyes, Gran Torino still had one test for Izuku. Who are you? The old man asked Izuku side, all this time and you still don't know. I'm Aizawa Izuku. That's know it. Gran Torino cut in. Izuku finally got his message. With a confident smile and head held high, he called out who he was. I am Deku. He beamed with pride and thanked his Well done, Yui, said Gran Torino as Izuku gave a smile and left the old man still smiling, knowing the future was going to be bright with the new hero Deku. Nobody POV Aizawa had gotten a call asking if he had given permission to a student to use his quirks. He sighed knowing this would happen. As his punishment, he had his hero license taken away for a week. He was torn between being glad or pissed. He was told everything and couldn't help but feel really proud about his son. So he had to hide his grin that would pop up every time someone mentioned the fall of Stain. As everyone had returned, that was the main topic that the whole class was talking about. They wondered who was the underground hero. Was he really a student? What school did he come from? All those questions were being fired around the room. Bakugo, however, whose hair was combed and styled neatly, was trying to hold in his anger as he was glaring at Ida, Todoroki, and Izuku. He wondered if his whole class were nothing but dumb idiots. To him it was quite obvious, Bakugo POV, that DMN Pro combed and styled my hair into some shitty look. And every idiot in this class is trying to figure out who took down the Earth Stain. Are they all idiots? It's obvious who it was. I can't let Deku defeat me. DMN it now, he has more experience. Something was DMN wrong about those internships. I didn't get to do a DMN thing. And those three idiots behind me took down Stain. It's obvious half and half is trying to hide the fact he's pale and could drop at any moment. And the DMN Four Eyes isn't making his stupid hand movements. And the demon Deku is over worrying for the two. And these idiots say I don't pay attention to my classmates. Nobody POV. Bakugo huffed, and then his hair exploded to its original state. Kaminari and Karishma burst out laughing when they saw it. Bakugo wanted a fight. Aizawa walked in and there was a hidden grin on his face. Mina saw it. She contemplated many reasons as why the man would be smiling, and then it finally hit her. It was Izuku that took down Stain. Everyone turned to Izuku. He was frozen in place, trying to come up with words but failing miserably. Fight me. Bakugo shouted and launched at Izuku. The boy simply sidestepped and the blonde went crashing. In that moment All Might appeared. My dear class, I hear you want battle training. Yes, All Might, let's go. Forget putting on the costumes. Bakugo shouted, making a mad dash out the door. Everyone's sweat dropped. Izuku and Aizawa were wishing they could have stayed in the internships a bit longer to relax from the head's aches when they were finally dressed in their PE uniform. Thanks to an overexcited person, All Might told them to choose a partner to spar. Bakugo immediately tackled Izuku. The boy slipped out the hold and ran for dear life. And so the day went on like that for the training. Izuku dodging Bakugo's attacks. He didn't take away his quirk cause he was just going whine and complain and scream and shout and curse and shriek breaths out of breath breaths in and screech and grind his teeth and glare and snarl. All Izuku wanna do is put him in a muzzle and toss him the PND. Finally his saving grace came. Achiko wrapped her arms around Bakugo from behind. The blonde turned abruptly and glared. There was a smile on her face as she heaved and slammed him back in a powerful German suplex. Bakugo out. This match goes to Achiko. Her internship with Gunhead has changed her into something dangerous. Everyone moved back. Afraid to PSS the brunette beauty, she has become a second Izuku. One moment happy-go-lucky with bright sunshine smiles. Next moment, they will hurt you without a second thought if you hurt their friends. However, something else happened. Achiko took Izuku's ear, then pulled hard. Then she took Ida's as well. What they didn't realize is that Momo as well had pulled Todoroki's ear. All 3 sat lined up with red ears. Being yelled at. Aizawa us reminded of time he was in the same situation 20 so years ago. Shoyuta. Geez, I told you not to go overboard, said a frustrated-looking greenite. But I needed to get stronger, a young Aizawa complained. No, but's you here, Inko scolded. I hear one more but, and I'll make sure you will spend the whole day resting. The greenite had a deathly aura around her. Aizawa complied and gulped in fear. Watching his class reminded him about the good old days when he was their age. He remembered chucking a chair at Yamada because he was annoying him in class. Another time he had hunted down Yamada and Ida because they were teasing him and made Inko faint. Running away with Namuri from Yamada because he was told to use his quirk for 3 hours straight, flunking a training session, sleeping in class numerous times, racing around in a shopping cart with Yamada and Ida. Okay, he finally realized his class is not so different from his own back then. He wondered which was crazier. He turned to them in time to hear screams. Acid is thrown everywhere. A laser beam is fired. There was an explosion. Ice and fire came. A sonic attack of heartbeats. Tape. Pigeons. High electricity. And finally there's glitter all over him. Where did the glitter come from? Kirishima asked. I believe that belonged to me, said Aoyama, swear dropping. How did it get here? Ida asked. Dark shadow. Tokoyami growled. Suddenly a cold shiver runs down everyone's spine. Izuku is first to act. He picks up Achiko bridal style and makes a mad dash for safety while shouting, "Run if you want alive." Everyone turned to their glitter-covered teacher only to find him gone. A hole carving blow was received by Bakugo in the gut. The blonde was out once more. Mineta felt something wrap around him. Next he feels like a wrecking ball as his slammed into Koda, Ida, Satu and Shoji so hard he thought some bones broke. The others were hit in the guts and were all nose sprawled on the floor. Either passed out or in pain. Sadly Izuku was caught and both he and Achiko suffered the same fate. Now tied up in his scarf, Aizawa made his way to the showers to try and get the horrid glitter of him. All Might, who was supposed to be overseeing the training, hid in a corner. Many of the class were thinking, why did they come back to school after yesterday's fiasco? Everyone was traumatized. Having a fist drilled into your stomach was no pleasant experience. They all looked at Izuku. The boy was acting as though it was normal. Dad was going easy on us. The training he gave me felt like he was literally ripping me in half, Izuku told them. Oh, so casually, making Mineta faint from horror. Others were blue in fear. All Might heard of this. He shivered down to his bones. Aizawa-kun is frightening, and young Aizawa as well for being able to survive such hellish training. He thought the lesson for today was a rescue exercise to see how well they have progressed and test their mobility in Battleground Gamma. The whole looked like a city of factories and storages, warehouses connected by pipes and steel cables. The first group was Ashido, Shiro, Ida, Ojiro and Aizawa. This probably going to be a battle against Aizawa and Shiro. This training is perfect for them, said Kirishima. This group is made up of everyone with the best mobility, said Kirishima. Deku has been training in this type of arena all his life because Aizawa started his training early. Pushing him off a building the first day they began, Bakugo said very calmly with no curses, shocking the whole class, even All Might. Everyone looks at Bakugo as though he was someone else. The sounds of crickets could be heard. You all looking at. Well, that was a very rare moment. Now his back. We might have to wait another 100 years to see that T-Tine again. Azui exaggerates. Everyone nodding in agreement. The match began. Everyone firing off their quirks and using equipment. Izuku and Shiro were neck and neck, both not wanting to back down. But then they met their ever-so-faithful friend that would always meet them when they look away. Wall meet Izuku and Shiro. Shiro and Izuku meet wall, both face planted into the wall. Ashido came first. As the two were groaning in pain on the floor, Ida looked worried and Ojiro just sighed. You know this wouldn't have happened if you guys focused on the exercise, he tells them. Noted, the two boys say, giving a thumbs up. The next day came. Izuku was running late to class. He was sure he left his father behind this time. He was certain. The man was drinking his morning coffee when he left. The moment he opened the door, he saw his father there. How? He shouted, shut up, you're 5 minutes late. But I left before you. And I arrived before you. The man says bluntly. He can hear his friends trying to hold in their giggles. He looked around and noticed Tokoyami and Ojiro were being late. The door opened and a disheveled blonde and raven appeared. They had apparently stayed back for Aizawa's coaching classes. It was horror. Tokoyami stayed because Izuku made him stay because he needed the extra training and got lectured and was told to not always rely on your quirk. Ojiro was curious, and when the young underground hero told him that his father holds coaching classes, which is actually close combat martial arts, the boy wanted to see and try it out. It was educational and painful. They wondered how their friends survived this. The boy just said he got used to it. As you all know, summer vacation is coming up. And as a hero course, it would be irrational to waste a whole month by not doing anything, and so, this is it. Kaminari thought, I can't wait. Thought Mina, we are going to have a training camp somewhere, probably in the woods. The class erupted with joy, then got silenced by their teacher's quirk. You'll first have passed the test in order to go. The written test will be on things you've learned in class along with some other things, and then there's the practical. You'll be briefed about what the practical will be later on. Hope you all studied, and with that, class dismissed. The moment the man was out the door this happened. I didn't study at all. The pink one says laughing, and the blonde with the black streak says with horror. Clearly panicking, but then Kaminari sighs. He is just overthinking things he believes. He may look and act stupid even though being the dead last, and he is still smart. Those sitting in the top 5 seat were probably godly smart. After all, remembering the written exam of the entrance gave him nightmares. It was all college questions. He managed to scrape by. Well, that's him over-exaggerating. Yes, the entrance exam were college questions. Well, it looked like it. It was just an IQ test to see where all the students were at. If they were to compare all first-year classes, Class 1A would be at the top in academic performance. And so when making lesson plans, they make theirs a bit harder than the rest. Of course, everyone in the class knows nothing about this. The written test should be simple enough, he says. I admire those simpletons that think this is going to be simple, Izuku says with a dead expression. What did you say, Yanban? Kaminari shouted. Nothing, Izuku replies innocently. I'm sure if you work hard you will surely pass, says Ida. It's not just about hard work anymore, Niban, the blonde says with tears in his eyes. If you guys paid attention in class and studied a bit more, then you wouldn't be in this situation, says Todoroki. That's it, Kaminari was dead. Goben, must you be so cold? Watch what you people say, please. Ichiban-san, please, we beg you, help us. Mina and Kaminari begged Yaoyorozu. I would be delighted to help. The written test shouldn't be a problem, but I'm sorry I can't help you with the practical, the girl says, sounding depressed, quickly returning to her bouncy and cheerful self when Jiro asked for help. Followed by Ojiro and then Siro. She causally slapped the fact that she and them were born into different worlds without realizing it, but her bouncy and cute and cheerfulness was so soothing it made her classmates to not mind the fact. Well, would you look at that? Not everyone can do that. I can do it, to minute. Bokogu says, not wanting to back down from anything, and what Kirishima said pissed him off. He can do what others can easily. Really, thanks a lot, Sanban. Kirishima shouted. The is with the number nicknames were not Namba prisoners in Nanbaka. The blonde shouted, pissed in another universe. All prisoners sneeze back to home universe. Cramming things into your head the last minute is bad for you. Aoyama says, twinkling as usual. Shouldn't you be the one doing some cramming, Juhachiban, says Shuji. What do you mean by that? The blonde says, somewhat giving a dark look while still cupping his face with his hands. What do you mean? He questions again. Shuji just sighs and walks away. Translations: Ichiban, number 1 Niban, number 2 Sanban, number 3 Yanban, number 4 Goben, number 5 Juhachiban, number 18 Izuku told the class the worst news they could possibly learn. Aizawa is setting the written test. Also the practical. Kaminari already looked like he wanted to leave the world. His soul was leaving his body. During lunch he thought about what the practical would be about. The written test should be easy enough for us to pass it, said Todoroki. I honestly admire you people, and didn't you hear what Dad said? He asked. Everyone at the table looked confused. He said the things that will be on the test with things we learned in class and other things, he emphasized. The guy is going to put things we know nothing in there. So we best begin cramming anything and everything. What? Shouted Hagakure. Our IQ level is the top of the school from what I can see. It's only natural they would make it this hard. So I can't help but worry. Achiko was on the verge of dying. Izuku caught the look in her eyes and gave a smile. Uraraka, why don't we study together? Yes. She shouted. Help me Deku, I don't want to fail. Izuku chuckled at her antics and then got hit in the head by something. Oh sorry, your head was too big that my elbow just happened to hit it, says Monoma Nito from Class B. Monoma, how dare you dash? Izuku starts off with more of a shocked tone than angry but was cut off by the blonde once more. You were the one that took down Stain, he says. Oh, the number 1 class gets the spotlight again. You guys have a way with trouble. It will be really bad one day when we're all caught up in it one day and will be all your fault, he says with a dark look and begins to laugh evilly, then whack. The demon goes limp and his lunch is caught by the big sister of Class B, Kendo Itsuka. Sorry about that, it's just that his heart is a bit, Kendo gesture a bit making it seem the guy's heart is messed up, his heart. Izuku questions a bit shocked. I heard you were talking about the practical. I heard from an upperclassman that we might be going up against robots. Of course I should have went and asked Mirio. Having upperclassmen that can help is like info gathering. Who is Mirio? Asked Uraraka. Izuku just smiled and looked at her. You'll know sooner or later. 3 years ago when Aizawa brought Izuku to work because the boy had nothing to do, he met his father's class. 3 stood out from the rest. A blonde with blue eyes, a ravenite emo, and a questioning airhead. It was quite an experience getting bombarded by questions, being surprised by seeing a face in a wall and then somehow getting along with them. Now those 3 are the big 3 and will sooner or later come into the lives of the 1A students. Robots, you say? Ida says as he begins to drift into his thoughts. There was this guy feeling Izuku had. Telling him something was going to change. Aizawa-sensei is setting it though. Kendo states, I knew it. It's best we be ready for anything. If Dad is setting it, then there's most likely going to be a change. Robots can be easy to destroy and grading will be harder. What I can probably see that guy setting is we are going to go up against either the teachers of senpais. Kendo nodded in agreement and went to share the news with her class while dragging a fallen Monoma. The days went by and the studying began. The group studying with Yaoyorozu got another slap from reality but didn't mind it because Momo's cheerfulness was soothing. Bakugo could be seen hitting Kirishima's head with a pencil case while the boy was busy trying to work out a question. And another pair of brown and green was sweat dropping at the scene as they sat just a couple of tables down, also studying. The day of the exam was now upon them. Izuku was right, nothing they learned was in here. Everyone had their heads down on their papers, but they could very much feel the grin on the demon who set this test. All right, put your pens down, the time is up, Aizawa told them. Everyone dropped everything. Mina and Kaminari was smiling. Despite knowing the test was set by a demon, they were sure as hell they would pass the written exam. Last person in each row collect the papers and bring them up. They thanked Yaoyorozu as she passed by them, and now it was time for practical. I'm pretty sure Izuku briefed you on what the exam is going to be like. You jinxed it. Kaminari shouted, giving a knee to his stomach. Izuku laid sprawled on the ground in pain. Robot was used in the entrance exams to avoid complaints because some people can't control their quirks. That's why you'll be going against us teachers. We grouped you in pairs to see how well you cooperate. The way you are paired up is by how I judged it. You will be making up for you partner's weaknesses with your strengths. In order to pass, you either capture the villain or one of you escape. So we can win by subduing our opponent or escaping. Izuku mused. Izuku remembered the night with Stain. Native telling him to run. The teachers you'll be going up against were all agreed upon, were selected because they seemed compatible. I'll start announcing the pairs. Kirishima and Satu against Cementos. Yaoyorozu and Todoroki against me, Aizawa says, giving his grin. Kaminari and Ishido against Nizu. Ida and Ojiro against Power Loader. Siro and Mineta against Midnight. Hagakure and Shuji against Snipe. Aoyama and Uraraka against 13. Tokoyami and Azui against Ectoplasm. Jairu and Koda against Present Mike. And finally Aizawa and Bakugo. Izuku looked shocked, as did Bakugo. Against me. All Might's booming voice came as he landed in front of them. You all are allowed to discuss strategies or watch your classmates. And with that the first match begins. And with that everyone went their separate ways. Bakugo stormed off somewhere. Hopefully things work out. Izuku prayed. Everyone came to Izuku for some help with how to take down the teachers. Sadly Aizawa encountered that. He had put a muzzle on his son so he couldn't talk and clamped his hands so he couldn't sign. They learnt sign language from Koda. Great for strategy working. His match was the final, and so he spent his time watching the others. He helped pick out everyone's flaws. He was asked to buy his dad back at home. Not only for his classmates but teachers as well. Satu and Kirishima match. He sighed and his shoulders sagged. They could have made it but their time ran out and they didn't think of other possibilities to defeat him. Like one could continue pulverizing while the other snuck around and attacked. Cementos isn't really the battle type after all. Ida and Ojiro did well utilizing both quirk to escape from power loader. But they would need to strengthen their quirks. And then it was Yaoyorozu and Todoroki. Uraraka stood by him and looked worried. Izuku nudged her with his shoulder and smiled at the girl. Uraraka could see Izuku was trying to tell her everything was going to be alright. And smiled back. Izuku thought maybe he should ask her out for a date after this. They could go out and buy things for camp and have a little detour and maybe steal her first key, Deku. He thought and slammed his head into the wall. Everyone in the room was shocked at what just happened. Azui and Recovery Girl sighed this hadn't happened in a while. The teachers that may be the most difficult against would have been All Might, Midnight, Present Mike, Nizu and Eraserhead. Given their personalities and so forth, Izuku knew his father wasn't going to go easy on both Yaoyorozu and Todoroki but there was a chance. Ever since the sports festival the girl had been doubting herself. Izuku watched the battle. Someone needed to talk some sense into the half-and-half boy to turn around and see the girl is struggling. Izuku noticed his dad has gone soft. Unlike the rest of them, Izuku was given an earpiece to listen in on what was happening. Call him the teacher's little helper. He don't mind. He made a decision. If he passes his battle he'll ask Uraraka on a date. He watched Todoroki and Yaoyorozu carefully. It seemed as though together the two made up a plan to capture their teacher. OSHT. The boy thought. It seems Yaoyorozu made binding gears. He regretted telling Yaoyorozu what they were made out of. His dad is going to chase him down. But it seemed as though he let them capture him. Recovery Girl sighed as did the boy. Oh, don't go doing that now. Who's the first child to come into his life and make him that way? He used to be merciless. Izuku looks away, the muzzle hiding his smirk. The battles go on and then Uraraka and Aoyama against 13. They did win the battle but then at first glance it looked like Uraraka let go on purpose but Izuku had the earphones as did Recovery Girl and so when Aoyama asked if Uraraka liked Izuku, the girl blushed madly. That reaction said it all. Izuku slammed his head into the wall. When the girl came back and saw his head all bloody she panicked. Izuku thought it might be fun to tease her a bit. Recovery Girl could tell what he was thinking. You are truly just like you father. The healing hero says with a sigh. If Izuku didn't have a muzzle he'd be flashing a Koro-sensei smile. God damn it. Wrong universe. Present Mike against Jairu and Koda. Koda would have to work on his voice and confidence. Jairu probably needs to go to the support department to come up with other different gadgets. Maybe wireless speakers that are retractable by magnet. She could use it as projectiles, attach them to places and deafen people. Hugh had his own sadistic grin on. Of course no one saw it. Thank you muzzle. If you weren't there Izuku's poor classmates would have thought he was a creep. Mineta and Siro against Midnight. He was impressed. To think Mineta would use Midnight's own personality against her. It was now his turn. He was finally out the muzzle. The breath of fresh air was heavenly. But no to try and work together with Bakugo. This will be a whole lot of awkward and difficult. Don't get in way Deku. Ah. No, we are supposed to work together, Izuku retorted as they began walking into the mock city. Since when the hell did you get so confident? Bakugo growled, huh? Izuku replied slightly aggressively, all my life, I was able to make it by ignoring all the bullshit you had thrown at me. What the hell was that? Bakugo growled. In viewing room everyone was worried. They watched the two fight with each other. Recovery Girl too was sighing. In the teacher's viewing room they too were watching with interest and unlike the students they had audio. They all thought it was a normal fight like they usually had but Aizawa saw. Through it, Aizawa said getting everyone's attention, All Might is screwed. This confused everyone. What did he see and hear that indicated the number 1 pro's defeat? The boys were about to throw a fist at each other and in that moment All Might landed before them. He had his smile. But then it faltered as the two boys grabbed each other's hands and a smirk grew on their faces as Izuku activated One for All and spun swinging Bakugo whose shin met the man's face and hell it was heavy. All Might plummeted into a building. He fell for it, I won the bet. Izuku jeered, shut up, it was luck. Bakugo shouted. All Might rose from the rubble and looked at the two. They seemed to be getting along swell. Unlike Aizawa said flashback. The reason why I'm putting Aizawa and Bakugo together is to see how well they can work together, said Aizawa. They come from the same middle school and were in the same classes since they were children from our sources, said Midnight. It's just they don't get along together, Midnight added, considering their background and all they were close during childhood and dash. Bakugo was part of his coping mechanism to return to his usual self, well, part of his past self. The teachers knew of their students' backgrounds and theirs as well. The first time All Might heard their story, he had apologized profusely. In power and cooperation, Aizawa can cooperate with anyone and his assortment of quirks give him the upper hand, and with Bakugo he can take down anyone with his natural battle instincts and his overwhelming power alone. The reason why All Might is going against these two is because he's the only one that has dealt with someone with multiple quirks and overwhelming power. The room went silent. As a dark and somber mood rose, what exactly are you trying to say, Aizawa? All Might asked. As much as I hate to admit it, he is similar in many ways, Aizawa begrudgingly admits. He was also one of the reasons why the villains infiltrated the UI. So of course he'd come up with the idea. Not only that, but he did appear and kill Inko and Hisashi Midoriya, and as much he hates to admit, his son has a connection to the #1 villain. All Might still didn't want to believe it. Flashback, and so the boys can work together, All Might thought and smiled. But in all honesty, what the hell was on young Bakugo? The blow to his jaw was painful. If he hadn't reacted sooner, his jaw would be broken. Bonus, at 2 a.m. in the morning, Bakugo is sleeping soundly. It was in the middle of the night. And then all of a sudden he gets a call. He let it ring once and let it die down. He was back to snoozing soundly, and then it rang again. He wondered why his ringing tone was so obnoxious. He covered his ears with his pillows and muffled out the noise. The ringing died down and he was at peace, but whoever was calling didn't want him to have peace. It rang once again. Who? The mother, dog, cat, bird, calling at 2 then. He shouted into the phone. The neighbors mostly likely woke up. The call ended. He huffed and went back to sleep, but then there was someone shooting stones at his window. Who the hell? He shouted and looked to his neighbor, who he had never met, only to see Aizawa Izuku. To think we were neighbors for years and didn't know, was Izuku's first words to him for the day. Anyway, I was the one that was calling. Why? Bakugo just can't now. He can't get mad. He's shocked that Deku was his neighbor, and he used most of energy screaming into the phone. I'm pretty sure that Dad is putting me and you together to go against All Might. Considering power and whatnot, we are most likely to go against him, and, really honestly, Bakugo is too tired. Let the poor blonde sleep. So I came up with a plan. Izuku leaped onto the boys' veranda, standing on the edge, squatted down, holding what looked like leg weights to wrap around the shin. These are leg weights. I have a plan that might work, Izuku says with a smirk. And if it doesn't, Bakugo asked, let the boys sleep. Let's have a bet then. First try we get a hit. If it works, you do what I tell you to do. If it doesn't, I'll do what you want me to do. Fair. Bakugo just nodded and turned around to head to bed. Izuku went back to his veranda, went back to his room and climbed into bed and fell asleep and wondered how they haven't noticed they were neighbors. Morning came. Bakugo Katsuki was back. He grew and marked the first thing in the morning. He begrudgingly walked to the weights Izuku gave him and tried lifting it. It went up, then fell back down, pulling the boy with it. The dash, it's heavy. Izuku heard him, got ready quickly and ran to school. Nobody. POV. I see you boys have gotten over your differences, says All Might as he rises from the rubble. Izuku broke out in hysterical laughter. Bakugo merely grunted. Oh, All Might, what are you saying? The man's smile faltered. I still very much hate this prick. Izuku lashed out and tried to grab All Might. The man didn't expect him to try and get close. Was he trying to take his quirk? If he was, that he would seriously be in trouble. Little did he know Izuku wasn't going to let that happen. After all, his injury is a state secret. All Might leaped back but was suddenly blown forward. Who are you, calling a prick deaf? Bakugo shouted with all his might. Izuku just laughed. All Might turned to grab Bakugo, but the boy was pulled away. Izuku's scarves. All Might turned to find both boys gone. What the where did they go? Everyone in both viewing rooms were confused. Aizawa, where the kid go? Ectoplasm asked. The brats are keeping low. Izuku most likely told Bakugo where the cameras we are using, yo, watch them are. All Might is staying in those locations so we can evaluate the brats when we see them fight. It's not like he's doing it on purpose but more like he's used to it. He's used to fighting out in the open, where no one can take him by surprise. Izuku is trained to use surprises to his advantage. Stealth and speed are his greatest strengths along with analysis and quick thinking. The boy has powerful quirks but he can't control it properly and can most likely end up injuring him. And that's where Bakugo comes in. He's the power and pretty much the bomb. All Might can be seen running back to the gate to make sure they don't get through. A camera finally picks up on Izuku and Bakugo. Both come out their hiding places and charge at All Might. At first it may not have been a smart choice. All Might threw a punch and the power that came with the blow blew the two boys back. All Might leaped to them. He grabbed Bakugo and slammed him Izuku. He had to be careful of Izuku. If he touched him then the jig is up. But Izuku could still give back the quirk without contact unlike before, and so All Might got a blow to the face. He still kept a firm grip on Bakugo. The boy knew that his blast didn't do scratch to pro. The ground started to shake as though it was going to collapse. And like it felt the building the man was under began to collapse. In surprise his grip on Bakugo loosened. The boy took the opening and escaped only to be used as a weapon once more. One for all activated. Izuku grabbed Bakugo's hands and spun, slamming the blonde's shin into All Might's face. Once more the man was thrown back once more into the collapsing building. The two disappeared into the shadows. All Might rose looking annoyed with a crooked nose. Aizawa snorted. Everyone turned to in disbelief and surprise. I expected these brat to be at each other's throats. Midnight said, yeah, like when? They were kids, Present Mike added. You knew them when they were kids? Asked Snipe. Well, mostly Izuku. We used to walk him back and forth from school when he was a little kid. We kept constant watch until he got his quirk, Mike clarified. Both boys were never really on good terms. Well, actually I think it's a bit more like a vet-heated rivalry. They can be friends if they tried though, said Midnight. I highly doubt that, Snipe retorted. It's true, there was a time Aizu was running from Bakugo but ended up bumping into a thug, Midnight mused. They were about 13. Aizawa is taking over. The guy got annoyed and picked up Izuku and tried to beat him. Bakugo caught up and slammed a crate onto the guy. The man tried to use his quirk on the kid but Izuku had already taken it. He kicked him off his feet and Bakugo went for the knockout with another crate. Bakugo was about give chase again but I decided to catch their attention and scared the brats away, Aizawa said so nonchalantly. When I got home, the brat acted as though nothing happened and so I left it at that. He didn't want to admit that he actually managed to work together with Bakugo. So you are telling me that they are only able to work together when they have a mutual enemy? Snipe asked in disbelief. Most of the teachers were looking at Aizawa as though he had grown two heads. I thought their relationship strained a bit more but I guess it mended a bit during the beginning of the semester. He remembered All Might telling him about the two boys' promise. He sighed. They will never admit it but they were the most unlikely of friends. Rivals to be exact. All Might was seriously annoyed now. What in the bloody hell was on Bakugo? The consecutive blow to the face was annoying and painful. In an alley where no camera could be seen, Izuku and Bakugo regrouped to come up with a plan, though Izuku was laughing his head off because of his MSTR's reaction. Bakugo smacked him on the head with his gauntlet. Ouch. The hell was that for? The boy clad in black shouted as he rubbed his head. Enough with the games, the time is running out, we need to get. Bakugo shouted back. Yeah, fine sheesh, Izuku said as he sat up straighter. It will be impossible for us to capture All Might, so our best chance of passing if one of us escape. Izuku laid out. I can take on All Might and you can blast yourself out. Like, I'm doing that, I'm taking down All Might. Bakugo shouted and hit Izuku on the head again. Izuku had activated Razor Extend. Bakugo was already accustomed to constantly bonking Kirishima on the head, so Izuku let him cause that was probably the only he can talk normally to someone without constant shouting out loud for the world to hear. Well, how about this? We trap All Might then we hightail it out of here. How the are we you going to that? Bakugo asked. My scarf is used of alloys that not even All Might can break. It takes a special knife to cut through it, says the green flash that knocked every guy out back in middle school, Bakugo said with a deadpan expression. How did you know that? Izuku shouted in surprise. Are you kidding me? Did you really think I wouldn't recognize that thing? It was the same as Eraserhead, Bakugo said in a somewhat gloating voice, admiring his own knowledge. You never met my dad back then, nor did he wear his scarf or hero costume when he came to pick me up, and you recognized what hero he was the first day of school. Izuku pieced together. An amused grin plastered itself on the green-eat's face. Bakugo was sweat dropping profusely. Out everyone he caught him. You're still a hero fanboy, ain't ya? Let me guess, you still have that All Might plushie I gave you for your 4th birthday? Izuku said teasingly. Bakugo isn't one to lie. And he has dug his own grave of embarrassment. He is still a fanboy at heart. And just like Izuku, he has knowledge on many of them, but he manages to keep it under the wraps. The boy was red. He needed to find a way to retort, BSD, at least I'm not the one with a round face plushie. It was Izuku's turn to go beat red. Ichuch. WW, what are you talking about? The boy stuttered out nervously. Bakugo knew. He struck a nerve. Unbeknownst to them, a robotic camera had snuck up on them and was watching them. What are they doing? Ida asked, fixing his glasses. And why are they so red? Uraraka asked. They are digging up every single embracing thing they know about each other and using it as verbal abuse. Recovery girl says, shaking her head in disappointment. These kids are something, says Cementos. Aizawa had face-palmed. He remembered what he thought about back during the sports festival. The stupidity of his class is immeasurable. All Might watch them bicker. He has to admit, it was funny to watch. He wondered when they will realize he's behind them. He also wondered if they knew a camera was watching them. He wondered if Izuku knew the teachers had audio. All in all, they had dug their own graves of embarrassment. For example, for some reason Bakugo is afraid of his aunt's tiny dog. Izuku saw the kid chased up a tree, clawing to it like a frightened cat. The kid even had proof. Of course he has proof. Seeing the local bully chased up a tree by a dog needed to be documented. Bakugo mentioned Izuku list of people to blackmail. Viewing room. His repeating history. Aizawa, you thought him how? Midnight shouts, throwing a chair at the man. Aizawa dodges. You got no proof. He retorts, present mic face palms. That just means you did. He thinks back to the battle. Izuku was certain he got Bakugo with his last shot, but then the blonde decided to pull out something Izuku thought no one knew. At least I wasn't. Izuku clamped the boy's mouth shut. How the hell do you know about that? Izuku shouts in surprise. Viewing room. Vi. Everyone question and look. And Aizawa. I ain't giving you an answer. Aizawa says. Izuku's vigilante stage. For 1 whole year the kid kept up the act. Very difficult when your dad is a pro. Met some interesting people that he may or may not have blackmailed. Accidentally digging up information on them and using it to threaten them. The kid was known as Yami. And Yami had been caught by Aizawa and his vigilante days were over. Reason why he did in the first place was to look for who killed his mom and stepdad. Aizawa managed to find loopholes and the kid managed to get out. But of course Aizawa went with own punishment for the kid. Bakugo is just as observant as Izuku. Seriously, for a year the kid had been acting strangely, and when he stumbled upon the truth he didn't know what to do. But then he didn't need to, because in his point of view, Deku got his SHT back together. That, and because Aizawa made sure of it. And it was getting to the good part. All Might's voice made them turn and face the man before they could react. The man threw a punch and sent them barreling through the air out into the open streets. It was time to give Izuku a piece of his own medicine. All Might grabbed onto Bakugo and batted Izuku. All Might noted the kid being heavier than he should be. Luckily Izuku was prepared and had activated Erasure Extend. But he didn't expect All Might to toss the blonde to him as though he was a flying projectile. Bakugo was starting to get pissed. The bloody weights were holding him down. We should toss it, Izuku says as he rises from the rubble. All Might won't let any of us out, and I'm sure we can't bring him down. So our best hope is to distract him and hopefully outsmart him. What's the plan then? Oh, it's a terrible one, Izuku says, and the blonde grunts and looks down. The boys had scattered once more and All Might was starting to get annoyed about this ninja-like game they were pulling. 10 more minutes and they fail. Die! Bakugo shouts and launched at All Might a surprise attack, the pro thought, but a very poor one at that. All Might grabbed the kid by the hand, immediately noticing the drastic drop in weight. Next thing he knows, the boy clad in black jumps and slams something down on his face again, and once again it was painful. That is it, you brats. All Might shouted. Bakugo and Izuku were already dashing for the exit. Bakugo using his explosion and Izuku plane running pissed because he got hit in the face 3 times and because the boys did not hold back and made him fall for the same trick 3 times that day, he leaped for Bakugo who was in the air. The boy maneuvered quickly and shot up. For some reason he decided to deal with him. First he leaped once more up high but something wrapped around his body. He turned to see before he got the upper hand and threw him into a building. The man pulled the kid up and slammed his fist into his gut. Izuku crashed down and embedded himself into the road. Bakugo fired at All Might but the man grabs his foot and slams a 2 feet away opposite of Izuku. The man then lands in between them. Izuku binding gear still wrapped around him but loosely. "Well heroes, it seems you have failed," he says. He was expecting more from these boys and somehow felt disappointed. "Don't look at us like that, All Might," Izuku says, forcing himself up. "I hate your plan, Deku." Bakugo growls as he too rises. In a matter of minutes and the time would be up and they would have failed. "It's best you give up, heroes," All Might says. "All Might, Dad never says this but the #1 rule about being a hero is to all expect the unexpected." Both boys simultaneously lift. They dominate hands. Both have with a grenade gauntlet. There is no time for the man to dodge and takes the blow. A futile attempt, he thinks. With one for all he could be said to be fireproof and so the heat was barely doing anything to him. Well, nothing to him but something to what was wrapped around him. He began to feel strangled and constricted as the heat from the blast got hotter from both sides. Izuku got the idea from Todoroki and Yaoyorozu's battle. It was a cheap ripoff but hey, anything goes. Bakugo did the honor of cuffing All Might who was looking dumbstruck. Bakugo also looked dumbstruck. "What?" Izuku asked. He was so sure he fractured his spine. He didn't get to harden up. Kirishima would be disappointed. Bakugo too looked to be in the same shape. "How did your plan work?" Bakugo asked. He was not expecting it to work. It was simple. They passive All Might, wrap him up with the scarf and heat it up till it hardens. Well, the two were preparing to fail, but it seems Lady Luck was on their side today. A completely unexpected turn of events. In fact, to many unexpected things happened that day. The one that most shocked everyone is Bakugo and Izuku working together. More unexpected would be the bro fist bump the two shared before passing out. Mostly from shock and the pain in their backs. All Might's mind, "How the hell should I get out of this?" The poor man was still restrained and cuffed. He squirmed and called out for help as the medic bots took Bakugo and Izuku away. Viewing room, "Shouldn't we help him?" asked Mike. "There better not be fractures in those boys' spines, otherwise I'll make sure that he doesn't get out." Those recovery girl says, making her way out looking very angry, and every UA alumni and student knows to not make this woman mad. Sadly, they had fractures. All Might Bakugo was having a great day relaxing at home. Well, as great if could be without having his mom yell at him from so early in the morning. She was saying something about dinner plans. He couldn't care less about his mom's plans. He wondered what he should do today. He didn't feel like going out. No way was he going to call his self-proclaimed friends. Well, in all honesty, he liked the idea of having real friends. Izuku was his first friend. He will never admit it, but he was somewhat glad that somehow they didn't kill each other. If he didn't think of anything soon, he was going to die of boredom. As if summoned, his mother shouted, "Katsuki, you have visitors." His mother shouted viciously, "Shut up, old, I'll be there." He shouted back with the same tone. He wondered who would want to see him. He pissed enough and bored out his mind. The moment he walked down to see who came to see him, he froze. He was glad his boring day will be over, but still it could go south pretty soon and pretty fast. The self-proclaimed Baku squad had found his home. "Do you know where I live?" He growled aggressively. "Aizawa told us." Mina chirped cheekily. "Which one?" Bakugo asked. "Izuku told us," Mina clarified. "Why are you here anyway?" "Well, you see, when all got bored. And so I called Mina. We met at Kirishima's place, then ran into Siro and then decided to come get you." Kaminari explained. Bakugo had them to his room and looked at every single one of them as though he was an interrogator. He sighed heavily. These were just idiots who have nothing better to do, like he had anything better to do. And so he decided to give in and do what these idiots have planned. "What stupid plan do guys have then?" he asked, effortlessly making himself sound uninterested. "We want to know what Izuku does on his days off." Mina says, That was by far the dumbest thing he has ever had. What was so interesting about Deku? Sure, he had figured out he was once a vigilante. Was right. What does that guy do on his days off? Does he still visit those shady places? Does he still meet up with shady people? Is he still doing those SHT in secret? Ah. Demon, now I wanna know. Curse you. Demon Raccoon Eyes. Is that nerd still a vigilante? Why do I even care? Flashback: Katsuki is 7 years old and is being babysit by his aunt Inko. Izuku was sick and was in bed the whole day. The boy was bored. He wanted to do something. He visited the sick Izuku in his room. The boy was still 6. Very small, many would think he was younger, pathetic Deku. Weak as always, he said as he looked around the room. Posters of All Might were plastered all over. There was a poster underneath Izuku's pillow. The blonde pulled it out and saw a hero he hadn't seen before. Eraserhead. Oh, you found Izuku's #1 hero. Inko's voice came from the door. Hey auntie, who's this and what do you mean #1 hero? The boy asked, confused. This is Eraserhead. He's a hero that can erase quirks, Inko says with a smile as she shows him the poster. He's Izuku's favorite hero. But I thought it was All Might, Bakugo says, sounding betrayed. After all, he and Deku grew saying they looked up to the same hero. But here he was learning that the nerd had another hero. Let's just say Izuku has a sixth sense when it comes to this particular hero. Inko smiled a bitter-sweet smile. Bakugo didn't know what she meant. Can you promise me something, Katsuki? Inko asked. Sure, auntie. Anything for you. The boy was always so sweet to her. Reason why her wrath is worse than his mother's. Take of Izuku as he was your brother, please, she asks. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that in the future he's going to get himself in a lot of trouble like his father did. Uncle Hisashi doesn't get in trouble, Katsuki protested, confused. No, he doesn't, but promise you'll take care of him. Izuku is bound to get in trouble, Inko says, headstrong. Fine, okay. The blonde says begrudgingly. Inko chuckled at his pouting face and ruffled his hair. Flashback: and I'm doing my best, Aunt Inko. Bakugo thought as he let out another sigh. He'll keep his promise to his aunt. And like the woman predicted, the guy had gotten himself into trouble. He became a freaking vigilante. He hopes the guy is not back at doing it. Otherwise he'll gladly kick his butt. We came here to ask where the guy lives. We all know that Aizawa is a workaholic, so what does Izuku do when he's got nothing to do? Kaminari asked. We pretty much know what everyone else does and it's just him, Mina says. The guy is a mystery and I think it's manly, but seriously I'm also curious, Kirishima says, pumping his fist. Since you guys are childhood friends, where does he live at? Bakugo simply pointed out his window to the next house. As though by cue, the sliding door opens up and a teen walks out. He looks over and around, unaware of eyes watching him. When he decides it's safe, he jumps off and landed soundlessly on his feet. Wow, a ninja, Kaminari blurted out. After him, Bakugo says harshly. They all looked at him confused. That was Deku, he said, and rushed out instantly. The other followed behind. They want to know what Izuku's secret life is like. Whenever they try to get the boy to hang out after school, he always gave vague excuses. Sometimes they see him at places he says he wouldn't be going to but magically appear there. It was out of pure curiosity that the Baku squad followed the hooded greenite into a convenience store. He bought something and then they followed him down a shady alley. What's he doing? Kaminari asked. Is he meeting up with someone? Kirishima asked. Could it be a criminal? Mina gasped. You all have quite an imagination, Siro comments. Shut up, Bakugo scolded, their imagination running wild. Izuku was always a shady figure. The blackmail, the lurking in the dark. The smarts, the looks, and the strength. The over-imaginators wouldn't be surprised if the guy ran a mafia. They anticipated what he was going to do. They couldn't quite see him thanks to the angle they were at. They could hear him talking. Dread filled their stomachs. Was the boy of their imagination truly what he was? They craned their neck all the way and they all face-planted when they saw what should have been an expected sight: Izuku feeding and petting and just being over-excited about all the cats gather around him. He was on the move again. This time he looked like he was heading to a playground. They followed him and saw him meet up with Todoroki, Tokoyami, and Ojiro. Could they be leaders of a gang? Kaminari thought. Are they training for some secret mission together in secret? Thought Kirishima. Are they picking up girls? Thought Mina. Are they also vigilantes? Thought Bakugo. These guys must be having wild imaginations again, Siro thought, but in reality. So what's next on the Aizawa's coaching classes challenge? Ojiro asked. Endurance training. Todoroki said the boy had started the classes only to stay out the house and away from his father. The Aizawa coaching classes challenges were activities done to test their limits. Well, in all honesty, it's just pure self-torture, and for today it was to stand on a spinning wheel holding on tight while it's spinning at the speed of a race car or fighter jet. They all got on and then wondered who was going to spin the wheel for them. Conveniently, Death Arms was patrolling. Izuku somehow talked him into spinning them even though it was against his better judgment, and so with all the strength the man had, he spun the wheel. The coaching classes students were nothing but blurs. The Baku squad face palmed. All of a sudden something crashed into the tree and got stuck. The sound hurling came and dead Tokoyami was seen passed out. Another was thrown into a bush. Once again hurling. Only his tail could be seen. Poor Ojiro. And next a mountain of ice almost freezes the squad in their place. They followed the ice and found a passes out Todoroki on a slab of ice, and finally, Izuku won the challenge. He stood victorious with a fist in the air only to stumble to a garbage bin and throw up, and you guessed it, pass out shortly after at a cafe. I think we may have wild imagination, Mina says as she drinks a smoothie. Hey, let's not give up. I bet Aizawa has a manly secret and doesn't want to reveal, and let's find out on our own, Kirishima proclaimed. Yosha. Let's do it. Kaminari shouted. Let's dig all the dirt Deku has. Bakugo grinned evilly. This is called invasion of privacy. Siro says, questioning his choice of friends. They tracked down the sleep-deprived boy and found him walking down another shady alley. They watched him wave at a buffer standing guard at a door. Now many questions were running through their heads. Why was Izuku in this not-so-sunny part of town? And is there some shady business behind the door the man was guarding? They watched the boy say something. Most likely a password, and saw him enter through the door. They were yelling questions throughout their minds. Bakugo, believing her, went back. Becoming a vigilante, they rounded the place and found a window. Snuck in to see what the hell Izuku got himself into, but they regretted it. They accidentally snuck into an underground pro-hero base. Underground pros sat at every corner. Hack, they spotted Aizawa Izuku casually walked up and stood beside him. The squad had many questions running through their heads. Let's get down to business. Aizawa spoke up. The squad was sure as hell thinking their teacher was super cool. Before we do, mind explaining why there's a child here? Asked a tall, skinny man. His gaze was piercing through the glasses he wore. Sir Knight I wasn't a man of childish matter and was wondering why a kid had walked into an underground base only known to underground pros. The Baku squad were still safe. Izuku had his hood up and mouth guard on. When did he get that? The squad questioned in their heads. This is Aizawa began. He's a student and a somewhat special one. These will be proof of what I mean. The man handed out a notebook. Bakugo recognized it as his The Nerd's Hero Analysis notebooks. The ones he had been making since they were kids. The underground pro eyes went wide as he read through the impossible accurate and detailed notes on heroes. It was both impressive and terrifying. It contained a hero's weaknesses, strengths, ways to improve their quirks, ways to avoid them, ways to handle, and ways to take them down. Not only that, but also behaviors and prediction of moves and so forth. It was terrifying. The book given contained big gun heroes including Endeavor and All Might, Fat Gum and Hawks. There's a whole bookshelf of those, Eraser had told him, and the man felt like falling of the chair. The other pros looked weary of his behavior. Those that were looking over his shoulder and reading it felt the same way he did. What does this boy have to do with this? He asked. He made them, Aizawa said ever so casually that it causes the whole room to be silenced. Baku squad still watching and not so sure on how to get away. Thank you for joining us on this journey through what if Deku had ability to develop new quirks? We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to the Weird 10209 for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you soon in the next video.